which is great. But my favorite thing is when the members come to the farm, because nobody appreciates what we do like you guys do. So thank you. So when you see some of our staff, our farm staff, please tell them thank you. I know they'll appreciate it. We're out here every day, and we kind of forget, how important it is what we do sometimes. So when you guys come, it recharges our batteries. So thank you for being here. I've been here for just a couple of years. I started out as the assistant farm manager. I was actually hired by David Little when he was the farm manager here. And what Mary said is absolutely true. It's just an awesome friendship amongst the farmers and the farm managers. And so that's one of the greatest things. I think that's really all I've got. I know that David's got a lot of things to share with you. I just wanted to come up and say hello and introduce myself. If you see me out and about and you have any questions about the farm, please feel free to just stop and ask me. Say hello to me, please. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're not getting away that easy. Tell me first, what's your favorite crop that we grow and why?
Well, it's easily lavender. For me, that's probably here at the farm. I mean, it's beautiful. It's probably the most challenging for us in a lot of ways because we take extreme extra care to keep the weeds out of it. As a farmer, I should say goldenrod is my favorite because it's probably the easiest to grow. It grows up tall, it shades out the weeds, and I don't have to do much. But I think I've got this special relationship with lavender because it is the most challenging, especially in terms of weed control.
Awesome. And what's your favorite oil and why?
My favorite oil is Valid. That one has done some. I remember probably the first time I was here and I heard Gary speak to a large group. He was talking about Valor and he referred to it as a chiropractor in a bottle. And I was like, okay. And I'd only been here employed for maybe a month, and so I didn't have a chance to try everything. I was like, I got to try that. And it's done just some amazing things for my back and keeping me in alignment. And I used to deal with a lot of back pain, and I really don't have hardly any at all anymore.
So I need to let you know that the single best thing that I've done at Young Living is hire Jason. Because when I got here and we're learning all about aromatic plants and how to grow them and how to distill, to bring Jason on with his background as an agronomist was a huge strength. And to see how he has just really got his arms around organization and handling things at the farm has just been super impressive. So it's an honor to work with Jason. We're great friends. I always have to bring him a drink when I come down. Love to connect with him, and I really appreciate his expertise. He's taught me a lot about farming and farm management, so it's been great to work with him. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Yep. So I do have some slides that are on these screens, but you're not going to be able to see them very well. So if you're in the periphery and want to get involved in what we're talking about and playing with plants, if you'll just get up and move closer, we could have a little bit more intimate discussion, which is awesome. So I want to go back a little bit to why I'm so passionate about crop production and about the plants. And it really started for me when I was 12 years old. Before I get into that, how many have been to On the Grow tour? Awesome. So you're going to hear some of the same stories again. I'm glad you're here, so bear with me. All right, so when I was a little kid, 12 years old, I left school, and the day school went out, and I went to the farm where my grandpa owned the farm in southern Idaho. And when I got out there, I remember charging through the door. I was excited to be there. My grandpa was there waiting. And I still remember today exactly what he was wearing and how I felt. He was wearing his sturdy boots and he had his worn out gloves, a pale green shirt, and a windburned face. And I was a little bit nervous, I'm just a little kid. And I walk in and he's got this calm, confident smile on his face, right? That meant that everything was gonna be okay. And so I settled down, all was well, and he took me out to the field. He says, we gotta go see the plants. And so we go marching out across this field, and it had just recently been planted, so there's like nothing out there, it's just dirt. And I remember thinking to myself, nothing's growing here. It's just all dead. When we get out to the middle of the field, I gotta move so you can kind of see. Anyway, we get out to the middle of the field, and we knelt down, and he dug down in the dirt where the moisture was held in the soil. And he dug down and he found a little embryo of a seed that had recently been planted. And that embryo of the seed was it was all swollen and just starting to sprout. And then he looked at me and he said, David, this is where the soil gives life to the plant. And then he went on to talk about how the soil holds nutrients and how the microbiology works for the plant and how important it was for us to be able to sustain the organics in the soil and that it could all give life. And of course, I'm 12 years old and I don't get any of that at that point, right? But then he said, I want you to remember that everything that we do to care for the plant and give this plant life, that plant is prepared to give that life back to you. And I knew at that moment that I wanted to be engaged with crop production for the rest of my life and be able to support all of humankind with substance so that we could live. And so that's what I've been engaged with throughout my career. And now I have an opportunity to work with these amazing farm managers like Jason, like Mark and Brett Packer, Kevin Sagers, Nick Landell, Nicholas Chung, I could go on and on. All of our farm managers are just amazing. So I come to Young Living, right? I have my career as an agronomist, and I come to Young Living to interview, and those of you who were here earlier heard my interview story. And so then I'm at Young Living. And I remember I was excited to meet with Gary Young and learn about how he wanted me to manage this farm here in Mona. How do I grow lavender, and when do we harvest? I'm thinking, I'm used to getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to milk the cows and go to work. So Gary's like, hey, is it time can we go out at 4 in the morning and harvest? And you can't. There is exactly a specific time that you have to harvest. And we'll talk about that in a little minute. Before I get into more details about natural sustainable production, I want to share an example with you that might help you to understand a little bit more about why this matters. Okay, and so if I stop to smell the plants, you'll have to forgive me, I love plants. But here's the thing, why does it matter? How many of you like to shop? Anybody? Well, there was this girl, she loved to shop, and she loved, even more than that, to find a great deal. So she was looking for a cashmere sweater. She goes out, she's looking around, she finds this cashmere sweater on sale for 40 bucks. She thinks, oh, that's a steal, and so she buys it, goes home, tries it on, and realizes that it wasn't quite what she expected. It's a little bit itchy, a little bit scratchy. It wasn't the comfort cashmere feel she was looking for. And so she takes the sweater off and looks at the tag, and it says 5% cashmere. She'd been duped, right? I mean, she was expecting this authentic cashmere sweater, and what she got was 5% cashmere. It wasn't at all what she was looking for, and it wasn't authentic like she wanted, right? In today's day, I'm going to stroll along in case anybody is following the slides. In today's day, there are scientists all over the world. Scientists are amazing, right? They can take any substance and break it down to the molecular level and rebuild it back synthetically to be the same thing. There were a couple of scientists out of Cornell University that wanted to rebuild or build synthetically honey. Now, we all know honey to be a natural substance that carries enzymes and antibodies and all these things that support natural health and our immune system, right? And honey can last for hundreds of years. Well, this honey that they built synthetically, they took some corn syrup and added in a bunch of other chemicals and made honey, and it looked the same, it smelled the same, it was sticky, tasted the same, but was it really the same? It wasn't the same. They set it on the shelf right next to the real authentic honey, and about 6 months later, the stuff they concocted in the laboratory had spoiled, and it wasn't any good. It didn't have the it didn't have the antibodies and everything that it needed. So it really got me to thinking, what's the difference? And why does it matter? Why do I care if it's synthetic honey or authentic honey? And how is honey even made? Well, to go there, I wanna go out on a limb. I want to ask my wife to come up here. This is Katrina. Come on up here. Katrina is my wife, and she puts up with me and sacrifices so that I can come and do this all over the place. And so I got to ask, what is it about love? Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it chemistry? Is it biophysical? It's all these things. I just want to introduce you to her. I'll let you sit down again. I'll get you involved a little later. But it's all of that, right? And it's connection, and it's all in a natural, perfect combination. So here's this bee, and he's buzzing around. Sorry, I gotta pause. Again, the bee's going crazy because the lavender's in bloom, or the goldenrod is in bloom, right? And the bees are buzzing all around, and they get the pollen all over them, and they eat the pollen, and it goes in their stomach. And it starts to gyrate in their stomach with the other enzymes and amino acids and everything in their stomach, and then all of a sudden, right, the bee throws up, and then we eat it with gusto, right? This is honey. So we eat bee vomit because we love that it's natural and it's authentic. But it's that natural, it's a balance that only nature can provide, right? Only nature. And so I ask, do we make essential oils at Young Living? No, we don't make essential oils. The plants make essential oils. We simply run some steam through the plant in order to extract those essential oils to give them to you. In the role that I'm in right now as Agronomist Global Farms, I've become aware of exactly how much lavender is planted in the world, how much rutagraviolens, how much goldenrod is even planted in the world. And then in the last year and a half, a lot of different essential oils products have come out on the market, right? And I'm looking at the volume of essential oil on the market, and I'm looking at how many plants are even planted that produce it. Those are two very different numbers, okay? All I'm saying is we need to be educated as consumers, right? If you can't track your oil from the bottle all the way back to the seed, then I ask you, what is it really? Well, there's a lot of synthetically modified stuff out there, and Gary was adamant about our essential oils not only being pure, but they needed to be therapeutic grade. What does that mean? Therapeutic grade. Okay, we're going to learn in a minute about the process of production of essential oils, and the therapeutic grade means that it was harvested at exactly the right time, in exactly the right conditions, so that all of the constituents are present to work with our bodies. So I got to tell you a story. So I'm just going to sit down for a minute. One of the things that happened, we just moved. I can't see everybody anymore. Sorry. We just moved about 2 months ago. And as we were packing up all our stuff to get ready to move, all the little toys that we kept stepping on, the Legos, and then there's Tinker Toys, and then there's the widget and the what's it, I don't know, all the different kinds of toys. So those all go in one box just because they keep stepping on them. So they're all in one box. And then we get moved into our new house, and my little boy, Braxton, he was looking for some toys to play with, and he dumps out this box. And he's got Legos and Tinker Toys, and remember, how many are familiar with Legos? Right, they click together. How many have stepped on a Lego, right? Yeah, you know where it's at. All the Legos click together. Will a Lincoln Log or a Tinker Toy connect to a Lego? No, so Braxton's playing with his toys, and he's like, every once in a while I get another toy that's not supposed to be here. This magnetics won't connect to my Lego, and so he's like setting them aside and putting them away and over here. Okay, well, I tell that story because the Legos work with Legos. Tinker Toys work with Tinker Toys, Lincoln Logs work with Lincoln Logs. Guess what? Okay, ni hao ma wo jia li dawi. Okay, lo que estoy diciendo es que hay muchos idiomas. Y no todos son igual. So I'm speaking Chinese and Spanish and English, but we don't all speak all those languages, right? Well, my body speaks natural and authentic. Whose body speaks natural and authentic, right? So our bodies physically are biochemical, biophysical. That's who we are. So if I'm going to use an oil that's synthetic, my body doesn't speak that language. It's a tinker toy trying to come into a Lego, right? But when I get an essential oil that's natural and authentic, it speaks my language and my body knows what to do with that, right? Hashtag authentic matters. Okay, so if that's all you get out of this, that's the deal. Hashtag authentic matters. Why? Because I matter, right? And there's no silver bullet. I'll tell you right now, you're not going to just go get an essential oil and now all of a sudden life's peachy keen. You're going to be healthy and perfect. It doesn't work that way. You've got to take care of yourselves, right? You've got to eat right. You've got to exercise. You've got to get enough sleep. Take care of stress. Take care of your relationships. You know, if there's somebody that you're not getting along with, man, go talk to them. Shake it out. Tell them you're sorry. Get on with life. Because life is too short to carry that burden, right? So we've got to do all these things, and then I've got to have like materials, the essential oils, the tools to help support natural wellness. All right, so Gary, we're riding in the truck one day, and he asks me, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm thinking, well, that's a rhetorical question. And he says, no, I'm serious. What came first, the chicken or the egg? And I said, well, he says, okay, now here's the real question. What came first, the plant or the seed? And what he was trying to get at is how important the seed was. Because if I don't have pure, authentic, non-genetically modified seed to plant when we're ready to rotate our crops, then we don't have new crops. Right? So the seed is absolutely paramount. So at all of our farms, we're planning ahead of time, 5 years in advance on our crop rotations to know how much seed we need to have ready to go for those crops. And so we have certified seed that we know has the right genetics. Let me give you the explanation. This is lavender, Lavandula angustifolia. Okay, it's English lavender. But there are actually 187 subspecies of Lavandula angustifolia. So if I go into the seed store and say, hey, give me Lavandula angustifolia, you'll get a little bag with some seed in it that says Lavandula angustifolia, but it could be any one of 187 different species, all of which have a different genetic expression of essential oils. So the constituents that come out in that oil is very different. Okay, I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. At all the farms, we use different practices. So the things I'm going to talk about right now are what we do here at the Mona Farm. But the challenges that we have in Taiwan and Ecuador and France and Oman and Israel and Idaho and in Tabiona, it's different at every farm. We have different weeds, different insects, different challenges. But the concept is the same, okay? The same organic, naturally sustainable practices are used at each of our farms, but they may be just a little bit different depending on what farm you're at. Okay, so here at the Mona Farm, every year we transplant into the greenhouse a little over 2 million starts in the greenhouse. Lavender, hyssop, blue yarrow, goldenrod, they get planted back out into the field. So that crop rotation is very critical. What happens if we don't rotate the crops? Okay, lavender's growing, it's being awesome. But down in here, we've got all of these roots that are kicking out chelates and acids that are freeing up nutrients. Okay, the microbiology that's down in these roots are giving out different nutrients, organic phosphorus, organic nitrogen, all feeding the plant. Okay, and so what happens is when we put on our manure, I love spreading the manure. I get on the tractor, Mary, she gets it in her face. I holler out, do her manure, and we let her fly, and it helps to give food not only to the plant, but we're feeding the soil. We're feeding the microbiology that can give life to this plant. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. Hang in there. All right. Cool. So we transplant that same plant. These are perennials. So year after year after year, we can come back and harvest these. If we leave them in the ground too long, pretty quick it creates a condition called phytotoxicity. That means that the soil gets tired of the same chelates and acids going out into the soil, and the plant takes up the same nutrients, so we end up mining the soil, and we don't want to do that, so we have to rotate crops. Anybody familiar with cover crops or companion crops? Okay, the whole whoop for cover crops. Yeah, cover crops just turn my windmill big time. Yeah, and here's why. Because the cover crops provide biodiversity to the plant. Now this plant that we would normally get 8 or 9 years out of, if you get a chance, I don't know if our fields are open. Are they open? Okay, yeah, so if you go over to Show Row, to the west side of Show Row, you'll see some lavender planted in a weed barrier with some drip irrigation in it. And in between the rows, scoot over, right in between the rows, we've got an inter-row cover crop planted. And it's clover and sheep fescue and bird's foot trefoil. 2 of those are legumes. So a legume is buddies with the nitrosobonis bacteria, okay? They make a symbiotic relationship. So the clover is, take in a deep breath right now. What you just breathed in was 80% of that was nitrogen. So the air that's all around us is 80% nitrogen, roughly. And so the nitrosobonis bacteria that lives on the roots of the clover and the bird's foot trefoil, all the legumes, alfalfa, it breathes that nitrogen in and it converts it to NO3 and puts it in the soil so the plant can have it. Very cool. Protozoa, little bugs, microbes in the soil, when they eat the bacteria, a whole bunch of nitrogen and organic phosphorus comes available to the plant, right? So why did we get away from that? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about conventional farming, how that came to be. Way back in the early 1920s, I don't know who it was, somebody realized if I put on 50 pounds of nitrogen, $50 worth of nitrogen, I get $100 worth of crop back. So I put on a whole bunch of inorganic fertilizer, I get more crop. And while that's great for the crop, oh man, now over here I can spray a whole bunch of herbicide and kill the insects and the bugs and the weeds that are attacking my plants, and I get more crop back. And so all of a sudden in conventional farming world, all of the research and development went into those petrochemicals and ag chemicals to grow bigger plants. Guess what happened to the microbiology that was given life? You remember down in this root zone, we got all these microbes, and the fact that this plant has all these fine root hairs tells me that this soil was very healthy. It was very alive. There was a lot of microbiology down in the soil, eating up the manure that got spread and feeding the plant. On a flip side, if I take another plant, here, let's try this one. What do you notice? Did I just flip? Oh, sorry about that. Let's just lay it down on the ground here. Thank you. What do you notice on this one? This is goldenrod. We've got a few big roots and not as many fine feeder roots. So this was in an area that we didn't have quite as much microbiology going on feeding the plant. Well, in conventional farming, with all those chemicals going on, and they're killing all of the microbiology that's feeding the plants. Now I want you to think about tillage. Tillage is the guy in the tractor pulling a big plow, right? He's turning over the dirt, killing the weeds. Is that an organic practice, tillage? It is organic, right? It's not chemicals, it's organic. But guess what? Every time we plow the dirt, it kills the worms and the microbes and the microbiology and the protozoa all get squished and mashed and cut up and maimed and die. It's a bad thing. And we're letting organic carbon off into the atmosphere. Oh no. So if we're going to farm sustainably, that means we have to mitigate any negative effect from our farming practice. So we've got to put back organic carbon, and we've got to be able to help restore the microbiology and the worms. So if you go out into that inter-row cover crop in the lavender and you dig, I guarantee you every shovelful you're going to find a worm. I know it. It's crazy. I thought it would take years and years and years to reclaim this soil, but cover crops are absolutely amazing. Before we come through and harvest, I kind of need you to stand up for me there, guy. Before we come through and harvest, we're going to mow the cover crop and leave it as a mulch. That mulch, as it's biodegrading and decaying, feeds all the microbes. When I go into one of our fields that hasn't quite had all of that inter-row cover crop put in yet, and I'm out there and it's just me and the lavender, I'm there all by myself. It's lonesome. I come into the field where we've got the cover crop going, and I got all kinds of buddies. I got bees and moths and butterflies and worms and jiggers and all the little things in the soil. A zillion that I can't speak. I don't know the names of all the bacteria and the microbiology. It's all going on, and the plants love it. Okay? I can't speak enough to that. Cover crops are awesome. When we get ready to rotate our crops, when we take the lavender out, then we plant in a cover crop blend in the whole field that has 8 different species of plants. So we've got 3 different types of legumes, remember, that help fix nitrogen. So there's a white clover and a red clover. There's hairy vetch and cowpea, not the moo cowpea, you know. It's the cowpea, it's also a legume. So those fix the nitrogen. And then beyond that, we've also got a daikon radish. It's a big taproot, and it goes down and breaks up the compaction. And inside the radish, for lack of a better term, there's a bunch of goo in the radish. That's technical, goo, right? The goo in the radish helps build phytomelon that builds soil structure. It's really cool. All right, I'm way off track, but I get excited, okay? So we got the manure going, we got the cover crops going, and we plow that in as a green manure. Right here in Mona, we're in an arid environment, so we're water limited. And that means we have to irrigate. But to really take care of our natural resources and be good stewards of the earth, we have to make sure that we have good distribution uniformity, that we maintain all of our irrigation systems, so that we put on just enough water that the plants and soil need without leaching or causing runoff and erosion, right? And that takes a lot of time and effort. So Gary and I would often go, you know, as we'd work together in the fields and in the greenhouse, I'd be following him, or he'd be following me, and I'm walking along and we're talking, and all of a sudden Gary would stop talking. I'm like, where's Gary? And he's got his head down, he's in the plant, right? I mean, he's looking at it, and then he's yanking it out of the ground, and he would ask me, he said, oh, I'm sorry about all the dust. I probably ought to take it easy. Anyway, he's like, what do you notice? He'd say, you see all the fine root hairs? That tells us that it's healthy. There's a healthy microbiome. Well, what does a plant look like that doesn't have that? I wonder, let's look at this one. So notice that this one doesn't have as many fine root hairs. The roots are much larger in diameter. Okay, that's an indication that the ground that this plant grew in was more compacted. And so if you think about having to push through hard compacted ground, you get mean and you get down, you really got to push. And so the roots, they get a little bit bigger around so they can push through. Okay, so and maybe the microbiology wasn't as strong there. So he's teaching me, what do you notice? And then he'd break off a chunk and he'd hand it to me. Here, eat this. And so I'd have to taste the plants, and I would do it now, but then I can't speak well. But he'd have me taste the plants and taste the roots. And if the roots are sweet, it was an indication that the plant had everything that it needed. If the roots were bitter, something was missing, right? And so we had to watch that. I might have to take this off if the wind's too crazy. So I want to look at one more plant really quick because I love plants. Check this out. This is rutagraviolens. And other than the dirt in your face, when we get down here, you got to come and rough these plants up and smell them and get to know them, because anyway, you'll notice that there's about as much root mass below ground as there is plant material above ground. Very cool. Awesome.
What is that?
This is rutagraviolens, or rue. All right, and we got a goldenrod, and we got some blue yarrow over here. That one's awesome too. All right, cool. So the big thing is he really wanted us to be able to observe. What do we notice? What can we learn? Well, if it's not healthy, do we need to dig deeper and study more and understand it, right? All right, I want to take a break for a minute and tell you a little story. When I was a kid, I used to live about a mile from school. And yes, it was, oh wait, we got to pause because the Frisian horses are amazing pulling this stagecoach. Very cool. Love the Frisians. And Felix and his team who trained them. Awesome. So I used to live about a mile from the elementary school, and I would get ready to come home from school. And of course it was uphill both ways and snowing all the time. Yeah, that was me. I've made a terrible mess. Okay, so anyway, I'm on my way home from school one day, and I catch on the breeze a whiff of Mom's homemade bread. How many of you like homemade bread? Yeah, awesome, right? And so I just, gotta go get Mom's bread. So I run home, I get home, I crash through the door, and she's got 2 slices laying on the table with bee vomit, some honey spread all over, and I'm just loving it, wanting to take it in. And so then a few years later, I get into college, right? And like every college student, my buddies come in and I say, hey, what's going on? They said, we're hungry. Right? Every college student's hungry. And I said, oh, hey, my mom knows how to make bread. Oh, thank you. You got experience with this. Look at that. Thank you very much. So anyway, they said, let's make bread. So I call Mom. Mom, how do you make bread? She says, oh, you just take some yeast and flour and water and sugar and mix it all up and put it in the oven and it makes bread. Oh, cool. So we go there and we put it in flour, sugar, water, yeast, and we mix it all up and throw it in the oven. And we are guarding the oven because nobody's getting this bread, right? And the dinger goes off, we open it up. And what we found is it was better served as a doorstop. This thing that was a rough attempt at bread really wasn't bread. So I call Mom. Mom, something happened. This bread that I tried to make wasn't bread. What's up? And she said, oh, got to tell you, the water has to be exactly 112 degrees. And you put just a little bit of your sugar in and put your yeast in and let that build a nice head, it'll foam up of yeast. And then you can add your flour and the rest of your sugar and your water and the baking powder and mix it all up, and then you knead it. And I'm like, yeah, I need it. I'm hungry. She says, no, you got to knead it. And then you put it in a pan and you gotta let it rise. And I'm like, and then the pans. No, you beat it down and you gotta let it rise. And I'm like, wow, all that to make bread? She says, yeah, all that to make bread. That's what makes it good. Oh. So I'm really not that great at making bread, but my mom, she knew how to make bread. And why I tell you that story is when I come to the distillery and we get ready for harvest and we want to distill our plants, it's a lot like bread. It has to be exactly at the right time. So are these plants ready to harvest? They got flowers on them. Is it time? Is it time to harvest this goldenrod or this goldenrod? How do we know when? What, does it matter? It's yellow, so let's just go, right? I want you to think about a tulip, right? Sun's shining, the tulip's wide open, he's in its whole splendor. The bees are going nuts and crazy because it's all out there, right? And then what happens when the barometric pressure drops and the clouds come over and the wind blows in my mic and the tulip closes up, right? All of its essentials come back to the crown of the plant, right? And so if I harvest the goldenrod in those conditions, even though it's the right growth stage, many of the constituents that make it a therapeutic grade essential oil would not be there. They would be down in the core of the plant. Okay, so when I get all excited with Gary, hey, let's go at 4 o'clock in the morning and harvest, no. We don't start harvesting until at least 9 o'clock, after the dew is all off, and when the bees, so last week we were harvesting goldenrod, and I was wanting to do a little film thing on how to harvest, and we're watching, and Chris Packer and his team is out there and they're testing to know exactly when. We use a device called a Brix meter, and we can measure the sugar and the sap flow of the plant to know exactly when it's the right time to harvest. So we're standing out there and I see on the underside of the goldenrod a whole bunch of bees, right? And I'm like, I don't think it's quite time. And about 10 minutes later, all of a sudden, as I look across the goldenrod, the bees are going nuts. It was like a 10-minute difference in time. Now it's the time to harvest. And the bees could tell us, but we also have instrumentation that can tell us scientifically when all of the constituents are out and available and in their splendor to be harvested. Why does it matter? Why do you care? Well, I can tell you that the bottle of essential oils that you get at whatever store that on the back underside says 5% lavender is not going to cut it in terms of a therapeutic. Therapeutic means that it knows how to speak my language, right? It's biological, biophysical, biochemical, and it works with my bodily function to help support natural wellness. All right, so then we bring those plants back into the greenhouse or back into the distillery, and we load the kettles and we cook at just the right temperature, just the right pressure for just the right amount of time. And I'm thinking, wouldn't it be awesome? Everybody here has size 7 shoe, right? Everybody's wearing shoes. Size 7?
No.
No? Wouldn't it be cool if every plant was distilled at exactly the same temperature, pressure, same amount of time? So when Gary was teaching me in the distillery, for goldenrod it's this long at this temperature for this amount of time. Oh, and lavender is this setup. Oh, and blue yarrow is clear different. And Melissa, we don't let it dry at all. We cut it and it goes right in the kettle and it gets an hour and a half. How do we know that? Well, Young Living is the pioneer of essential oils, right? And we continue. He taught me never let well enough alone. Just because we think we know it, continue to question what we know. Question it, test it, try it. So Chris is out there testing the plants before we harvest, while we harvest, and after we harvest to make sure we're hitting at exactly the right time. And improving, always improving what we're doing. Okay, I won't profess to say, oh, we're perfect, we get it right every time. No, because we're biological, biochemical, biophysical. This whole thing is changing. We all mutate a little bit and change a little bit to our environment. So we have to continually test and try and know to make sure we're hitting it and getting it right. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Naturally sustainable farming practices deliver the best, most pure, highest grade therapeutic essential oils. Natural, sustainable crop production, right? So that means that we're farming in a way that can bolster the life of the microbiology, help it to grow and flourish and support and sustain the plant. Anybody know what time it is really quick?
2:30.
2:30. Oh, I have time for a story. All right. So, just kidding. I need 8 people right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Come with me. Come around this side. One thing Gary Young taught me is farming is not a spectator sport. So, I want 4 on that side and 4 on this side. And you get to dance in my dirt mess over here. So 4 on this side. Awesome. All right, so for those of you who don't get this opportunity, if you get a chance to go to an On the Grow event, we'll be doing it again there. And if you get a chance to plant a plant at the farms, do that. But so what I want you to do, everybody on my side, you're going to cup your hands. Awesome. Everybody on this side, you're going to snag a plant. So pick it up, pull it out. No, you get that one. This one's mine. All right. What do you notice as you pick this up? What do you notice? Long roots. Okay, I've already broke this up. But normally if you go to a nursery and you get a plant, it's all root bound. It's all root wound up, right? Don't be afraid to break that apart and loosen it up. Gary, okay, you set it down for me. I got to tell another story. Gary taught me to think like a plant. So I want everybody to do a thing real quick. You're going to put your hand up over your mouth, like this, and breathe through your fingers. Now push your hand tight against your mouth and breathe. Can you breathe? Can you eat? Can you drink? Neither can the plant. So if you're in compacted soil, you can't breathe. So when you yank that plant out of the pot from the nursery, break up the roots, let it breathe. Okay, go ahead and you're going to plant that into your partner's hands, and go ahead and set it down. And then but first, rough this up while it's set it down. Smell it. If you want to, taste it. If Gary were here, he'd make you taste it. But you got to get into it. Get to know your plant. This is rosemary that we're playing with. Okay. All right. Then you got to add some dirt. Right. Throw some dirt in there. Pack it in. Throw it in your hair. You know, go crazy. It's all good. So the dirt is the defender. It's the protector. Right. The dirt. We love the dirt because the soil holds all the nutrients. Okay. It holds the water. It holds the microbiology that's feeding it. The soil is the protector. So when the storm comes and goes crazy, the soil takes care of the plant. We love that, okay? All right, now you got to dig a hole under there for them to plant in. And all the organics that we put back to the soil, the life that we give to the microbiology, and all that we care that we give to this plant, go ahead and plant it down in. To give this plant life, I want you to remember that this plant is now prepared to give that life back to you in the form of essential oils. Very cool. Now, everybody on my side, cup your hands. And everybody on this side gets to grab a plant. What do you notice? What do you notice? Yeah, the roots are they can breathe, they're out there. Awesome. Did you rough it up and smell it? Did you eat some? Yeah? All right. Very good. So go ahead and plant that into their hands, into your partner's hands. And pack some soil in there. Remember, we got to have the soil to protect the plant. So go ahead and plant that in. Awesome. So I got to tell you a story. One day I went into the greenhouse and they got these little digger thingies. It's a technical term, digger thingy. Right? So they got those little digger thingies and they're digging around every single plant. Well, in the greenhouse, there were 600,000 plants in the greenhouse. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. They're going to digger thingy every plant? And I left there thinking, what a waste of time. And a few days later, I was reading the Bible and it talked about dunging the olive tree and digging about the olive tree. And I thought to myself, maybe there's something to this organic farming, right? And a few days later, I'm back in the greenhouse and I look at the half of the greenhouse that they did the digger thingy on, and those plants were easily twice the size as the other half that they hadn't digger thingied yet, right? And it has to do with enabling that plant to grow and to breathe. Awesome. So remember that when we do all that we do to give life to these plants, that they're prepared to give that life back to you in the form of essential oils. Thank you very much. Thanks for your help. I'm going to file on the stairs. So everything that I learned from Gary Young, we've been talking about natural sustainable crop production, and it's awesome. It's absolutely what we live by. What was more exciting to me than just, not only did I learn all this from Gary, but then I met Brett Packer at our Highland Flats farm, and then I met Kevin Sagers, and then I met Corey Howden, and then all of our farm managers, what Gary had, they gave to him, right? I get asked all the time, did Gary teach me everything that I know about growing aromatic plants for the distillation of essential oils? Well, guess what? I didn't. You see, Gary didn't just give me a fish to eat. He taught me how to fish, right? He taught me how to question and to ask and answer and go find somebody that knows more about it than I do. Sorry, I'm kicking dirt in your face. Go find somebody that knows more about this than you do and learn from them and bring it back and implement it. His feelings weren't hurt if I would learn a new approach, a new procedure. He would applaud that innovation, right? That was everything Gary was about. So as I meet Brett and our other farm managers, they've got it. So Gary not only empowered me to be a good agronomist, a good father, a good person genuinely, because everything that we do is all about people. He also empowered all of our farm managers. over 3,000 employees at Young Living, and now millions of members of Young Living that can carry on this great work. What an amazing thing, right? When I think about everything that Gary did and all that he taught me, oftentimes I get a little bit emotional, right? And to know that he's still involved in what we do. Because, well, I have time. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Brett Packer called me in January. He says, hey, we're going to Oregon to get training on living soil, the microbiology. I'm like, oh, good, have fun. Tell me all about it when you get back. I'm busy. And later, about 6 months later in June, I'm working with an organic research scientist out of Savannah, Georgia. Anybody here from Georgia? Yeah, right on. True Earth out of Savannah, Georgia, Claude Gallipo. Okay, I'm talking to Claude. He's teaching me all about different organic weed control procedures, and we're having him test some things. And he calls me up one day and he says, David, we got to go to Oregon and get training on living soils. Oh, okay. So we go there and we're in this class, and I realize it's the same class that Brett was in. And I'm like, oh, okay, Gary, I get it. I was supposed to go to that, right? Well, it doesn't end there. This procedure involves how to reproduce the microbiology and how to put it into the soil. And about a little over a month ago, Mary finished updating the D. Gary Young, World Leader in Essential Oils book. If you haven't read it, you got to read it. Okay, you will know where we come from. Anyway, I'm reading in there and I flip it open to a page. And lo and behold, in 1992, Gary was all about living soil and the microbiology. And he's guiding what we're doing and keeping his farm managers engaged in the way it needed to be done. And it was very touching to me to know that while Gary did pass away, he is still very much involved in what we do. Yeah. So when we research our plants and we're looking for new oils, and Chris Packer's out there, he's told me numerous times, I just feel like I need to go here, right? And when I'm on an airplane and my flight gets canceled and moved, and I wind up sitting by somebody that ends up needing what I have to share with her or him, right? Everything that we do is all about people. It's about my wife. It's about my son who has a severe skin condition. It's about my brother-in-law who has neuropathy. And I'm not supposed to speak terms and illnesses on the stage. I get that. I'm not suggesting that Young Living Essential Oils is going to cure cancer and all the debilitating disease in the world. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we're all human. We're mortal. What ain't broke don't work no more. Anybody have that? Right? I'm saying I'm a Lego and I need a Lego. What I'm saying is my body is biophysical, biochemical, right? And what this plant that's also biophysical, biochemical, biological can provide to me, it can support natural wellness. How many of you were here earlier when I was talking? Okay, so you heard my story of the thieves, right? Two days ago I woke up sick. I got snot running down the back of my throat, and I got a massive sore throat, and I'm thinking, oh, 3,000 of my best friends are going to show up and I can't talk. Great. Well, I wrote some thieves on the bottom of my feet and distill some thieves into the air, diffuse thieves, and rub it on me and eat a couple of thieves cough drops. I'm not saying it cured my cold, but I'm standing here before you today without a cold. Okay? And it is that it can support. Does your body want to be sick? Anybody? Our bodies don't want to be sick. They don't want to not perform. They're just missing some of the tools that they need to do it right. The Young Living Essential Oils and our products have the ability to bridge that gap to some degree, right? And to support natural wellness, and that's what's really cool. I asked Gary on one occasion, it's all about this big business, and it's amazing what you've built. And he says, no, it's not about big business. I could care less. He says, if everything that I do will reduce pain, stress, anxiety for just one person, and help one person have better connection, better joy, better happiness, and be able to spend time with their kids or with their spouse, it's for one. And so everything that we do at Young Living is all about people. And so if there's one thing I can encourage you to do is to share your why. Why does this matter? Share it with somebody. As sure as you try one new Young Living product that you haven't tried before, it's going to change your life. And as sure as you share that with somebody else, it's going to change theirs, right? And that's what's really cool. So I want to wrap this up with one statement. Everything that I learned from Gary Young, and I'm going to have to read it because I have my head's hard, right? I can't remember. So I'm going to read this. God has given us something important. Not only the seeds that we plant and the crops we grow, and the technologies and tools that we apply and use to grow them, and the natural resources that we have, but also the technologies we use, the people we work with, and our colleagues that we work with every day. So remember that when we cultivate our fields, and we distill our crops, and we manage our teams, and interact with all the people that we come into contact with, that we must care about how we do it. And that was Gary Young. Thank you. So, following my song and dance, there's a jousting show.